Hey everyone, it's Ryder from Skip. The stock market is falling rapidly. We are seeing the largest decline since March 2020, and some investors predict the S&P 500 may crash 50%. I'll talk about what's going into this market correction. What are some of the signs that the stock market is finally breaking down? In this quick and important video, if you have any investments, this is going to have ripple effects for the entire economy. It's what many have been waiting for with apprehension. Tech stocks, Bitcoin are all down. I'll keep today's video short. And at the end, I'm going to preview a new business loan calculator that's up on the Skip website. I was going to wait to announce it next week, but I'll share it with you today. A way for you to calculate loan amounts, the interest you may have to pay on loans, and more. Thanks as always for liking this video. Hit subscribe, turn on the alerts if you haven't yet. And the one plug today, we've opened up a few new spots for next week for personalized one-on-one funding support. Use the link in the description to skip the backlog of folks. You can click the link to check availability and try risk-free. Here's the chart today. Look at this correction we've seen over the past week. If you're tracking your investments, you know what I'm talking about. This is a big deal. It's the biggest decline we've seen since the March 2020 correction. Here was the decline first and second week of March 2020 when COVID bottomed out everything. We've seen a fast uptick since then, and here's where we are today. Oil, cryptocurrencies drop. Investors register disappointing reports from Netflix and Peloton. By the way, both of those stocks are down heavily. Here's one of the takeaways. Investors' conviction that the Federal Reserve will raise interest rates several times this year to combat inflation has pressured stocks. Last week, Fed Chair Jerome Powell called rapid inflation a, quote, severe threat to a full economic recovery. And data showed, I've shown a lot of this data, consumer prices continue to soar, 7% up from December. Cryptocurrencies tumbled today. Bitcoin, Ethereum, all down. Bitcoin lost around 6.6% compared with its levels 24 hours earlier, trading at 38,644. So all of these premium assets, crypto, high leverage, growth names are being impacted. And what's working right now is the opposite of that. Quality stocks, says Jerry Breckman, who's Chief Investment Officer and President at First American Trust. And his recommendation is that investors don't buy the dip for tech stocks. On Bitcoin, crypto has its lowest level since August 2021. You know, for a long time, people thought that Bitcoin and crypto was a hedge against the stock market. It turns out that hasn't been the case. We've been seeing this more and more. When stocks fall, so does Bitcoin. Here's a quote: cryptocurrencies are no longer an isolated risk asset and are responding to changes in global policy. It's not surprising that both will start to become more volatile as the liquidity tap turns off. Now, I'm going to share 7 signs on how the stock market is breaking down, but I want to talk about what legendary investor Jeremy Grantham is saying. He predicts the S&P 500 will crash 50% after this fourth U.S., quote, super bubble. Jeremy, a market historian who has repeatedly warned investors that they're caught in an historic bubble, said the benchmark index may slip to around 2,500, a downside of roughly 44% from Thursday's close and 48% from January's peak. The tech-heavy NASDAQ composite, meanwhile, may see a sharper downturn. He said during the past year, the bubble we were in advanced to the category of super bubble, one of only 3 in modern times, and the potential pain has increased accordingly. So he laid out why he made this prediction, and here's the advice he gave to investors. He said, avoid U.S. equities, invest in value stocks of emerging markets and several cheaper developed countries such as Japan, plus have some cash for flexibility, as well as a little gold and silver. And as for crypto, that asset class leaves him, quote, increasingly feeling like the boy watching the naked emperor passing in procession. That's from Jeremy Grantham and his predictions. Okay, here are some of the signs that the stock market is starting to break. The tech wreck, many tech stocks are going down. Semis slammed. Semiconductor stock have particularly taken it on the chin with the popular exchange traded iShares Semiconductor down 7.3% this week and down 8.5% this year. Death cross for the smalls. Small cap companies have fared almost as badly as technology shares, down 8.1% year to date, and a few other reasons it's not looking good. As that article says, it's going to be a bumpy ride this year. and the tried and true advice that Jeremy said, invest in value stocks, is his take. Two more headlines before I announce our new business loan calculator. First, the irony here, states are currently swimming in cash thanks to booming tax revenue and federal aid. This just out from the Wall Street Journal today. New York, California, Florida are among the states planning big one-time investments in worker bonuses, tax rebates, and paying down debt. These states are flush with cash. There was a lot of worry that states may struggle paying out unemployment claims over the last 2 years. Turns out they've had enough aid, and state revenues between April and November increased 24% from 2020 to 2021, according to a survey conducted by the Urban Institute think tank. 32 states said revenue collections for fiscal years ending in 2022 were ahead of projections. 32 states ahead of projections. Here's a map of the change between 20 and 2021. Alaska had the highest, 52.3%. You can see Florida's quite large, Texas, California, New York. A second piece of news today, Biden administration makes visa changes to retain foreign STEM students. Some immigration changes here designed to make the path for foreign students and professionals to stay in the U.S. if they're in the fields of science, technology, engineering, and math to remain in the U.S. on a long-term basis. They've been long called for by tech companies in order to retain top global talent. The biggest change here is there's an expansion of the number of disciplines that qualify under the STEM framework. With this change, students in some of these disciplines will be permitted to stay and work in the U.S. for 3 years after graduation, rather than the 1 year offered to all international students. So it's basically allowing more graduating students to stay in the U.S. for up to 3 years before getting a visa sponsorship like a H-1B from a company. Okay, I promised I'd announce our new business loan calculator. I'll leave the link right in the description. If you're looking for funding, you don't want to wait for the SBA anymore, we've just released this. This is the first time I'm announcing it. Scroll down, you can read how to use it, but basically toggle to the loan amount you're looking for. Let's say you're interested in $50,000. You can toggle all the way up to $100,000 for now. We'll increase that limit soon. You can toggle the $50,000 and the loan term that you want. Let's say you'd be interested in a 5-year loan term, and then put in the monthly interest rate you think you can get. For example, if this was SBA funding, the interest rate would be 3.75%. You can calculate and see what your monthly payments would be. In this case, $50,000 over 5 years at 3.75%. Your monthly payments would be $915. Your total interest over those 5 years would be just under $5,000, and it tells you your total payment amount. You can also toggle here to see things change in real time. So if you had closer to a 10% monthly interest rate, you can see what that does for your total interest from $5,000 to just under $14,000. You can play around with that. And on the right hand side, we have 4 of our preferred funding partners: Bluevine lines of credit up to $250K, Fora loans up to $750K, Funding Circle loans up to $500K, and Fundbox lines of credit up to $150K. We have the links you can use. I know many of you watching have already used some of our partners and have raved about some of them. Anyway, if you find this helpful, let me know in the comments. We plan to do a personal loan calculator and do some improvements here that will help you make better financial decisions for yourself or your small business. Thanks for tuning in. Sorry to be the bearer of bad stock market news, but this may mean there are new opportunities to invest and to buy the dip. Most importantly, have a great weekend ahead. Stay well, stay healthy, and I'll see you tomorrow.